I still remember the exact second my stomach turned cold. Even though the ballroom was glowing with golden light and expensive laughter, it happened quietly, almost invisibly, the kind of moment most people would miss. But I saw it, and I knew instantly that everything I had been waiting for was about to begin. My name is Valerie Sterling, and I own the Azure Coast, one of the most exclusive boutique hotels on the Florida Panhandle. I built it with my own hands after losing everything, after watching my life collapse in a way that felt both sudden and completely inevitable. People see the marble floors, the chandeliers, the flawless service, and they think it was always like this. It was not. This place was born from debt, humiliation, and a kind of quiet rage that never really goes away. 5 years before that night, I was engaged to a man named Jordan Fields. Back then, I did not have my own empire. I had a catering business, a growing reputation, and a partner I trusted more than I trusted myself. Jordan was charming in a way that made people overlook his sharp edges. He spoke like a visionary and smiled like a savior. But behind that was a man who calculated everything, including people. When he left me, he did not just walk away from a relationship. He dismantled the business we built together. He dissolved the company behind my back, shifted the clients into a new venture under his name, and left me buried under debt that took years to escape. At the time, I thought the worst part was losing him. I was wrong. The worst part was realizing that to him, I had always been replaceable. I rebuilt my life from scratch. I moved to hours down the coast, took whatever work I could find, and slowly started again. The Azure Coast was not just a business, it was proof that I could survive him. Every detail, every policy, every clause in every contract was written with intention. I created a place where respect was not optional and where money did not excuse behavior. So when I discovered that Jordan Fields had unknowingly booked his wedding at my hotel, it did not feel like coincidence, it felt like fate with a sense of humor. He had used a shell company, Apex Synergies, to secure the booking. He did not list his name directly. He thought he was being clever, hiding behind corporate paperwork to get a better rate while writing off the expense. What he did not know was that buried in my contract was a clause that allowed me to terminate any event without refund if the identity of the client was misrepresented. I could have canceled immediately. Legally, I had every right, but that would have been easy. That would have been forgettable. Instead, I approved the booking. 2 weeks later, I saw him again for the first time in 5 years. I stood in my own ballroom wearing a simple staff uniform, a name tag that reduced me to just another employee. He walked right past me without a flicker of recognition. That moment hurt more than I expected. Not because I missed him, but because it confirmed something I had always feared. To him, I had never been significant enough to remember. His fiancée, Astrid, was exactly the kind of person my policies were designed to handle. Demanding, dismissive, and convinced that money gave her authority over everything and everyone. She criticized the room, the decor, the staff, even the way the silverware was arranged. She spoke to my employees like they were disposable objects, not people. Jordan did nothing. He stood there, distracted, nodding along, telling us to just do whatever she wanted. That was when I understood the dynamic completely. He had not changed. He had simply found someone who reflected his worst instincts back at him. From that moment on, I stopped thinking about whether I should go through with it. I already knew I would. The wedding day arrived heavy with humidity and tension. The ballroom looked flawless. White orchids hung from the ceiling, the lighting softened every edge, and the entire space shimmered with the illusion of perfection. Guests arrived dressed in wealth and expectation. Unaware of the quiet storm beneath the surface, I stayed in the background, watching everything unfold. I was calm but not relaxed. There is a difference. Calm is controlled, relaxed is careless. I was not careless. Dinner service began, and for a while, everything moved exactly as planned. Plates were delivered in perfect sequence, wine was poured at the right temperature, and the band played softly in the background. It was seamless, almost beautiful. Then it happened. Maria, one of our housekeeping staff who had stepped in to help due to a shortage, was carrying a tray of empty glasses. Astrid turned suddenly, her massive dress sweeping wide, and collided with her. The tray tilted, glasses shattered against the floor, and the entire room seemed to pause. Maria froze, clearly shaken, already apologizing. Astrid did not hesitate. She snapped at her, loud enough for nearby guests to hear, calling her incompetent and careless. Her voice carried, sharp and cutting, turning a simple accident into a public humiliation. Maria tried to explain, but Astrid cut her off again, this time stepping closer, her tone harsher, more aggressive. That was the moment I had been waiting for. I walked forward, no longer hiding behind the role of staff. My posture changed first, then my voice, calm, firm, unmistakable. That is enough. Astrid turned toward me, irritation already forming on her face, ready to dismiss me like she had earlier, but something stopped her. Maybe it was the way the room shifted, or the sudden silence from the guests who were now watching closely. You do not speak to my staff like that, I said evenly. She blinked, confused, then annoyed. Excuse me. Before she could continue, I reached into my jacket and handed a document to Jordan. He looked at it, then at me, his expression slowly changing as recognition finally began to surface. Valerie. Yes, I said finally. The room held its breath. I explained it simply, clearly, without raising my voice. The contract, the shell company, the misrepresentation, the conduct clause. Every piece of it was documented, signed and enforceable. Their behavior, especially the public harassment of staff, had triggered multiple violations. This event is now terminated, I said. Astrid laughed at first, a sharp, disbelieving sound. You cannot be serious. I am completely serious. Jordan stepped forward, his voice slower, more controlled. Valerie, let us talk about this privately. We are talking about it, I replied. Right here, because this is where it happened. He looked around, realizing that every guest was watching, every phone discreetly recording. The perfect image he had built for this night was cracking in real time. You are making a mistake, he said. No, I said calmly, you made one, 5 years ago. And again when you signed that contract without reading it. Security moved in quietly, professionally. Guests were informed that the event had been concluded due to a contractual breach. Some left confused, others whispering, many clearly entertained. The illusion was gone, replaced by something far more real. Astrid was furious, her voice rising, demanding refunds, threatening lawsuits. It did not matter, the contract was airtight. The deposit was non-refundable. Jordan did not argue after a certain point. He just stood there, looking at me in a way he never had before. Not with affection or arrogance, but with something closer to understanding. He finally saw me, not as someone he left behind, but as someone who had built something he could not control. When they left, it was not dramatic, no shouting, no grand exit. Just a quiet, defeated retreat under the weight of consequences they had never expected to face. The ballroom was empty within an hour. Staff began cleaning, resetting, restoring the space to its usual perfection. Maria was fine, I made sure of that personally. She apologized again, even though she had nothing to apologize for. I told her the truth, she had done nothing wrong. Later that night, I stood alone in the atrium, looking out over the lobby as I had so many times before. Everything was calm again, like nothing had happened, but something had. For years, I thought closure would come from success, from building something bigger than what I lost, and it did, in part. But that night gave me something different. It gave me balance, not revenge in the way people imagine it, loud and explosive, but precise and undeniable. He faced the consequences of his actions, not just from the past, but in the present, in front of the life he had tried to build. I did not ruin his life. I simply refused to let him walk through mine without accountability. The next morning, I reviewed the final numbers. After fees, damages, and the forfeited deposit, the hotel made more than enough to cover an entire renovation of our spa wing. It was almost poetic. People like to say that success is the best revenge. I disagree. Success is survival, accountability is revenge. And that night, standing in my hotel, watching the ocean roll in under a quiet sky, I finally understood the difference.